For the past few years, the real estate market has felt like a major gold mine for the average investor. I bet you have at least one friend or family member who brings in monthly profits off the one rental property alone. Just think about it. Your rents are getting higher and mortgage rates even lower. A win-win situation for the landlord. It sounds nice, however, we have one major problem. Not everyone owns or can even afford a rental property. This leads me to Airbnb and the power of rental arbitrage. If you haven't heard that term yet, don't worry because I'll explain exactly what it is, how to get started, and how you can make thousands using other people's property. If you stay until the end of the video, you'll learn a step-by-step breakdown of the business model on how you can cash in on Airbnb arbitrage. But if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hit the bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. What is rental arbitrage? Contrary to popular belief, you do not have to own property to create Airbnb income. Just because you're not a landlord or property owner doesn't mean there are no other opportunities to make money on Airbnb. Rental arbitrage is a business model that focuses on leveraging other people's properties through sublease agreements and renting those properties on Airbnb. Basically, this means rental arbitrage hosts will rent properties from long-term landlords and resell them on the short-term marketplace such as Airbnb. This business model allows you to build cash flow without all of the stress and challenges of home ownership. Theoretically, rental arbitrage is a very simple concept. Buy product A, turn it into product B, then sell that product at a higher price. Because of the simplicity of the business model, the Airbnb community has widely adopted it. In fact, you might have stayed in an Airbnb that operated as a rental arbitrage unit without even knowing it. But don't get confused. There's a difference between rental arbitrage and subletting. Rental arbitrage is a special kind of subletting. Instead of subletting one person who will take over the rest of your lease, rental arbitrage allows you to potentially have multiple subletters in the form of nightly or short-term rentals. In rental arbitrage, you're taking advantage of the fact that monthly rental in a long-term lease is typically lower than short-term rents that might be paid for a nightly rental. So let's imagine that you pay $1,000 a month for an apartment, but then decide to book the apartment 20 nights of the month for $150 a night. This then nets you $3,000 a month in profit. Of course, that doesn't mean you're making a profit at $2,000. You'll have to subtract the cost of utilities, internet, cleaning services, maintaining the place and marketing your property. But still, the point is that there's money to be made without the upfront costs of buying a house. What are the benefits of rental arbitrage? It might come as a surprise, but many successful Airbnb hosts model their business on rental arbitrage. Some benefits of Airbnb rental arbitrage include the following. Number 1, little risk. Since you don't own the property, the risk associated with it are completely minimized. If the roof needs to be replaced, it's on the landlord to fix it. If the property does not generate enough bookings to cover your costs, you can easily walk away from the lease. Number 2, less bookkeeping headache. Landlords have to manage and pay multiple expenses ranging from mortgage to utilities, maintenance, and much more. Instead, the rental arbitrage host typically has one flat fee to pay at the end of the month, which is rent, of course. Number 3, minimal upfront investment is needed. Since you're not buying the property, you don't need to budget so much money for a down payment. All you need to do is pay your first month's rent, damage deposit, and any furniture, linens, or amenities needed to get your property Airbnb ready. What are the downsides to rental arbitrage? If rental arbitrage was perfect and easy, then guess what? Everyone would be doing it. As the saying goes, there are two sides of a coin. Some of the disadvantages will include, number 1, rent. Regardless of what happens, a landlord is going to expect you to pay rent every month. If you're late to pay or completely avoid paying, you may face charges or eviction in some cases. Number 2, leasehold agreements. You will need to write out detailed agreements with the landlord to ensure that you, the landlord, other tenants, and the guests are all protected. These documents can be time-consuming and costly to have created. Most times, they require help from a lawyer. A breach in this agreement could most certainly result in bad consequences. Number 3, property damage. Whether we want to admit it or not, bad guests exist on Airbnb platforms. If one of your guests damages the property, whether it's by accident or on purpose, you as a leaseholder are responsible for the repairs. In some cases, Airbnb and/or your insurance provider may help cover the costs. In other cases, all of that money is coming right out of your pocket. The point is that, as with any business, there are several pros and cons. You just have to weigh them against each other and decide whether you can sustain the business model. In a minute, I'm going to tell you some of the exact steps to take when getting started. Is Airbnb rental arbitrage legal? Airbnb rental arbitrage is completely legal, but that depends on the short-term rental regulations where you live. Be sure to do proper research first. Short-term rental laws are evolving in many large cities across the world. You'll have to make sure that rental options like Airbnb are allowed in the city you're potentially hosting on Airbnb, or that there isn't a limited number of nights annually that you can rent out to guests. If vacation rentals are allowed in your area, you'll still have to check if your town, city, state, or province will require you to apply for a hospitality license. Once your research is done, make sure that the landlord you are renting the property from allows short-term and vacation rental arbitrage. Some landlords explicitly say in their leases that this is not permitted or give specific conditions that must be met. Make sure to check with your landlord before subletting your apartment, or you can put yourself at risk of facing an angry landlord and the consequences that come with it. What about renter's insurance? Once you have an agreement with your landlord, be sure that you are protected and covered in the case of damages, injury on your property, or even natural disasters. Airbnb offers host protection insurance to get you started. How to start an Airbnb rental arbitrage business. Starting a rental arbitrage business can be pretty easy, but you know what? Not everyone who gets into it makes good profits or achieves success. If you want to maximize profits, you need to make the right decisions from the start. Here are some tips on how you can successfully start a rental arbitrage business. Number 1. Conduct proper market research. Your probability of success in your Airbnb business is heavily dependent on location. To make sure that you're investing in areas with high income potential, you need to do a thorough Airbnb market research. You might want to look at these factors while doing your research. Number 2. Arbitrage potential. To make a profit with rental arbitrage, the first step is to look for real estate markets with the highest average arbitrage potential. These are markets where short-term rent prices are considerably higher than long-term rental prices. For rental arbitrage to be profitable, the market should have a high short-term rental demand from vacation and business travelers. Number 3. Seasonality. High variations in seasonality can be a big risk to your rental arbitrage business. You should avoid markets with huge dips in demand during certain seasons. The best markets for rental arbitrage have a consistently high demand for short-term rentals throughout the year. Number 4. Airbnb Regulations. Before you think of starting a rental arbitrage business in a particular real estate market, know the local Airbnb regulations. Take time to study the laws of the city or state to make sure that they won't hinder your business. Number 5. Find profitable properties for rental arbitrage. Once you know your target market, you should identify rental properties that will bring you the most success. Number 6. Talk to your potential landlord about hosting on Airbnb. As I've said before, you must talk to your landlord about your hosting intentions before signing the lease agreement. Number 7. List your property on Airbnb. Next up is listing your property on the Airbnb platform. You must make sure that your rates are in line with market rates. We have an entire playlist on the channel to help you with this step. Also, try not to oversell your space. You don't want to get bad reviews from customers. Rental arbitrage is an excellent way to invest in real estate without actually buying properties. However, you need to conduct thorough research and invest in properties with high income potential. Even with little experience in the real estate industry, you can use this business model to create massive wealth. If you found this video helpful, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. But I want to make it easier to make rental arbitrage successful, so I've created the perfect video you need to watch to break it down for you. Click on the video on the screen now, and I'll see you in the next one.